Welcome back to the Star Trek Critic. Today is Data's Day because each day of the week is named after a Star Trek character. As usual, each episode is graded like a school project, starting with 100 points, taking away 1 point for each error, and still photos are used extensively to prevent copyright claims. In this episode, Data sends a letter to Commander Maddox describing the life of an android, in an attempt to help Maddox create an android without trying to drill through Data's head. This brings up the question, why doesn't Data just send Maddox copies of his programs? So, minus the first point. Here's the typical extra gives a nod for no reason scene. Minus 1 point for a single set of doors on the turbolift. This is actually a more accurate scene for the first and second officers. They would probably hardly ever work together in real life. Data says, I number 1. Riker says, I have the bridge. So does the whole ship dim and brighten the lights for day and night, or is it just for the bridge? We will never know. And Data is 25 years old now. He must have several programs that predict human responses. Aww. Data says, I love you. Keiko says, I know. Keiko decides to call off the wedding. Since that came out of left field, Data wants to ask the left fielder about it.
The left fielder's name, why?
1 point lost here. If Keiko asked Data to be father of the bride, he would have looked up everything about weddings and found that chapter on pre-wedding nerves. 1 point lost here. Data would know to talk to Deanna first. Another point lost here. The ship is 3 times the size of an aircraft carrier. They would have a chapel of some type for a wedding. Even the original Enterprise had one. Data really sucks at bringing the bad news, and Geordi's like, damn Data, you really sucked at that, didn't you? 1 point lost for opening credits 6 minutes into the show. The Hindu Festival of Lights is actually Diwali. Normally I would take a point for an ambassador traveling alone, but spoiler alert, she is a spy and had it planned that way. In the turbolift, Data is thinking, damn, her social skills are worse than mine. They give the standard really cheesy diplomatic greetings, then she says, Riker, get out. Riker is so pissed off at the charming woman, it looks like he's about ready to let out a really good fart. Look close at the way he pivots before entering the turbolift. So, would Geordi's visor see his reflection in a mirror? This is the first time you see the barber shop. Data calls Geordi a lunkhead. Geordi calls Data the second baseman. 1 point lost because barbers don't even use scissors like that now. Seriously, if they have that device which can change hair collars, they wouldn't be using scissors at all. Another point lost because Data knows nothing about wedding gifts. As you can see, the purpose of the replicator is to spoil little bratty kids. Data and Worf both discuss, did you notice how the replicator room looks just like the Enterprise bridge from Star Trek V? Another point lost here because Data should know that weddings involve dancing. 1 point lost here. Juarez is going into labor. Why is she in the middle of sickbay with no privacy curtains? Now Beverly calls Data the second baseman. He's like, why me? Data says, because you taught David Bodie how to dance in Labyrinth. This is why she taught him to tap dance, because he said he saw it in her record. 300 years in the future, they still simulate zipping lips. The next point is lost since they are heading to the neutral zone for a classified mission, and Data relays that in his unclassified email to Dr. Maddox. The ambassador gives Riker a dirty look because she heard him call her a charming woman. Data is called in to do a drug test.
Mr. Data, your analysis.
Picard wants to get the ambassador a hooker. Yes! She says no, her 7 years aren't up yet. The next point is lost because this cat food dish has more food in it when he places it on the floor. Now for the most painful scene Brent Spiner ever had to go through in Star Trek, holding a cat. O'Brien comes in for a heart-to-heart talk. He says, Data, it's about Keiko. I think she used to be married to a man in a dress. Data says, you should really talk to Counselor Troy about that one. I'm not into that kind of thing. As usual in Star Trek, they never follow the teachings of Yoda. O'Brien performs the Picard maneuver. Now Keiko calls Data the second baseman. I'm pretty sure the Arboretum is probably one of the largest areas on the Enterprise. That's where they grow all their food. It would be much healthier than replicated food all the time, which is people eating their own poop. In the Arboretum, the crops are just fertilized with everyone's poop. Data wants to know what the issue is, and she says, well, my first husband was so much better at making dresses. Data's new program is just getting him into a lot of trouble. 1 point lost for an obvious cleavage shot. Deanna says, you should have come to me first. Then Data says, well, if I did that, then this would have been a much shorter episode. Deanna says it's all the third baseman's fault. Data says, one day I want to get married. Deanna says, great idea. Please report to my quarters. Data's like, are we going to do the nasty right now? Whenever a door opens, an extra crosses in the hallway. T'Pil wants to know the secrets of the Enterprise. Data says, "You're a spy, aren't you?" T'Pel says, "Get out." Data has a gut feeling, he just needs to program himself to act on it. Beverly would not be in standard uniform for tap dancing lessons, so -1 point. 1 point lost for not asking Data if he wants to learn how to dance for the wedding that's going on in less than 24 hours. 1 point lost for an obviously double for Data. According to IMDb, Gates McFadden was pregnant during this scene, which means she was also pregnant during this scene. Now, this show takes place just some few months after this show, so I guess my theory was right about them getting together. Did you notice the Crushers are always attracted to beings of light? She should have known he wanted to dance for the wedding, and it turns out neither one of them know the left fielder. Now they try ballroom dancing. Look closely. Beverly takes the towel, and now it's back, so -1 point. This is eye number 2. Worf says eye number 3. The Romulan lovers meet again. O'Brien says eye number 4. Why is he on duty and not preparing for his wedding? So it turns out security can have a lock on the transporter signal. But it didn't help, the ambassador died. All that's left is Vulcan Jello. O'Brien would have had this stay scheduled off since he's getting married, so -1 point. The captain, first and second officers are all in the transporter room while a Romulan warbird is facing them, so -1 point. All 3 went back to the bridge, so -1 more point. Mendak says, "You're all full of shit." Data says, eye number 5. It's time for a drink. The secret is out. The DNA was fabricated. Pretty sneaky trick they did. Riker does Picard maneuver number 2. Eye number 6. Eye number 7. Now for the standoff in the neutral zone. And this time it is the Romulans who won the poker game. Aww. Riker makes silly comments right behind Picard like the little ass kisser that he is. Keiko is sending text messages in the Arboretum. Data's like, "Holy shit, Geordi was right, the wedding is going to go on." 1 point lost for quoting Captain Kirk from Balance of Terror, and 1 point lost for not having the chaplain perform the wedding. Keiko had a real chaplain in her first wedding, and that was even worse, military conditions. Or they could have had Dr. Quace do it. After all, he married the Brady brides. Here's a good shot of the cute couple, while O'Brien is thinking, did your last husband really wear a dress? The next point is lost here. Who leaves a newborn baby out in the middle of sickbay for anybody to pick up? I mean, where's the mother? Look quick, this is one of the few times you see Worf in the captain's chair. In reality, this is probably what happens on the Enterprise more than the actual adventures they have on the show. Space is boring. Worf says eye number 8. Data turns the lights out so everybody will think it's nighttime. And Data will probably lose his command and his commission for sending all that top secret information to Maddox. This is the 3rd appearance of April Grace. Shelley Desai has 90 screen credits, including Moonlighting, The A-Team, and History of the World Part 2. The late Alan Scarf just left us with 85 screen credits, including Quantum Leap, Voyager, Babylon 5, and Stargate. He loves sci-fi. Sierra Pachur was also on Quantum Leap, Apple's Way, and What Women Want. Rosalind Chow is going strong with 139 screen credits, starting with Here's Lucy. She will be back 7 more times on TNG and 19 times on Deep Space Nine. Data's Day, which involves a birth, a wedding, a spy, a dance lesson, Keiko's debut, Spot's debut, and the debut of the barbershop, Arboretum, Replicator Room, and the Nightlight, gets a score of 77. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and next week we should have high definition images. Seriously, who would name a cat Spot?